I am here to introduce you to a concept that I call the Creative Committee. Harnessing your team's creativity for strategic innovation, which is a mouthful upon mouthfuls. Show of hands, how many of you are creative? 75% of business owners will say they're creative. 75% of regular people will say they're not. Now, how many of you believe that your committees are creative? Well, I was over-optimistic on that number. Yeah, committees, seem to be the opposite of creativity. They get hung up in a lot of things. But committees are made up of people, and people are creative, aren't they? NASA created a test back in the 60s to determine if people were creative. Not if they thought they were creative, to determine if they were creative. They have given this test to thousands of people, all ages. And what they found is that 95% of children are creative. Which is probably no big surprise because we all know children have great imaginations and they know no bounds and all that. But you're probably thinking, how in the world did I manage to hire that 5% that was not creative? Truth is, you didn't. The same test that NASA gave to children, they, of course, have given to adults. By age 25, 5% are creative. What happens in 20 years? Do we lose our creativity? You can't lose creativity. You have it when you're born. You have it when you're 5 years old. You still have it when you're 25 and when you're 95. I think you misplace it. I think society beats it out of us and lots of crazy things that happen along the way. We just misplace our creativity. But make no mistake about it, God made us creative. He made us to be creative, and He made us to create. So therefore, we are creative. So the few of you who did not raise your hands, you are creative. I'm going to show you how. And those of you who think that your committees are not creative, I'm going to show you how you can make them creative. Your challenge, though, as the leader of your business and the leader of your people, is to find that creativity, explain it to your people so that they understand how they are creative, how they contribute to the creative process, and how they can help your team do more, be more innovative, and be more strategic. And that's what this process is all about today. Committees do catch a lot of flack. I usually tell people, if you want a camel, try to get a committee to design a horse for you. And what you'll get is a camel. But committees, as you know, can be very political, unorganized, hidden agendas, misdirection, no participation. Committees in general are dysfunctional, but they don't have to be. With the right process and with the right attitude, committees can be strategic. They can be a team. They can be very focused. In a word, teams can be functional and productive. And a committee that is fun, functional, and productive is a fun committee. So you may as well have fun. Who has said that this morning? That is why we're here on this earth, I think, partly to have fun and enjoy what we've been given. So I want to help teach you today how to take your dysfunctional, hidden agendaed, goofy committees and turn them into idea teams. Idea team. It's an acronym I'm going to teach you in just a little bit. The process that we use, we call revision because it helps us create a new vision for our clients, mostly about marketing. We are what you'd call an advertising agency. We call ourselves a marketing innovation agency. And we use this process to develop innovative marketing plans for our clients. We tell them, and we believe it's on our business cards, our job is to change the future. And so we sit down with a new client or even an old client. We're all about, we know where we've been, we know where we are, we know where we're going, we don't like where we're going, we want to change where we're going. That's our job, is to change the future. And so we tell them, first thing, all right, if you're not marketing innovation, you shouldn't be marketing. And if you're not marketing innovatively, you should not be marketing. And we did this 6 weeks ago. We sat down, I said those words to a company that for 80 years has been selling mops. Mops. Innovation and mops. Put those two words together and see what you get. They have been making mops and selling them the same way for 80 years. They sell to hotels and to schools and to restaurants. And they did not like where their future was headed. They did not like it at all. Things were going not very well because they're a commodity among commodities with no brand recognition and just a bad story altogether. Plus, they had a management team of 6 people that had 6 different ideas of where they needed to go next. They've been working on this problem for a while, and they said, well, I know where we need to go, I know where we need to go. And so we ran through this process, and one day, just one day, we uncovered 3 innovations that they actually already had. We just identified them as terrific opportunities that they could take to market that would set them apart from their competition. We got agreement on using outside-the-box marketing strategies. They normally sell through 2-step distribution. They sell to distributors who sell through reps, to distributors, to end users, and the end users don't even know who they are. So we developed some ideas about how to get around that and give them some advantage over their competition. But the most important thing about this process that day for them was we had 100% team agreement on what we were going to do next. And that's one thing you need to have from your committees, your idea teams. So that's just one example of how this works. Here's what you're going to learn today, I hope. Creative problem solving, which is another term for innovation, is a process. It's a step-by-step process. It can teach you what it is and how it works. Second, I'm going to teach you about your people, you and the people on your team. Everybody has their own problem-solving style and profile. We all approach problems from a different perspective. You know about personality profiling, DISC and Myers-Briggs and stuff like that. We approach problems differently, just like we approach everything differently, because we, guess what, are different. I'm going to talk to you about that. We're also going to show you tips and tricks on how to get 100% consensus and 100% participation, even from those people who are normally kind of quiet and don't like to participate in committees and let the loud people take over. This is a big one, and it's almost counterintuitive. I'm going to help you make sure you're working on the right problem. Now, everybody in this room is smart, and I know, because I know how you approach problems the same way I do. We think we know what we're working on, that it's the right problem. I think I'm going to show you that oftentimes you're not working on the right problem, and if you go through the process I'm going to show you, you will make sure you are, and you'll get better results, because the best ideas, the most creative ideas, the most well-funded project, the most well-executed program that's attacking the wrong problem is going to fail. So let's work on the right problem. Lastly, this is not a brainstorming tool or process. It does generate lots and lots of ideas and does get a lot of creative thinking going. On top of that, I'm going to show you some creative thinking tools to help stimulate ideas when you do get your committee together and you need ideas. You need to create some stuff. So let's go back to the idea team. This is the first easy thing to remember. IDEA is the process, and TEAM is the profile, the acronym for the profiles that go with your people and their problem-solving styles and profiles. IDEA, it's going to sound simple, and basically it is. I'm going to hit it real quick, and then I'm going to come back and give you more details. But I is identify the problem or opportunity. And to me, a problem is just an opportunity in disguise. You know, a problem for your customers is an opportunity for you and your company. A problem within your company is an opportunity to improve, change, or grow. So you have to identify the problem. I'll get more into that in a second. Next, you have to define the problem, and this is where you make sure you're working on the right problem. Third, expand your options. Normally, committees get together and they come up with the same old solutions to the same old problems that they've always come up with. We're going to show you how to expand those options so you've got more to choose from and you do get outside the box. And there's even ways to get inside the box and be more creative. Now, this one is totally simple, but it's really important. Activate the plan. I know you've done this where you had a great committee meeting, you developed all kinds of neat ideas and said, okay, well, let's go do it. And the plan sat there and never got executed. You got to activate the plan. So come back to that in detail in just a sec. First, let's talk about the profiles and the problem-solving styles. Personality profiling is a trait. That is, you're born with it. You can't change it. It's just the way you are. Problem-solving profile is a state of mind that you are in when you, and a preference that you use when you are attacking problems. And we all have a preference that is somewhat rooted in our personality profile, but not exactly, because you can change, you can move around to all 4 parts of the process. But the first profile is that of the transformer. The transformer sees an idea, sees a problem, sees an opportunity, and turns it into ideas. These folks generate ideas just easily. They just come naturally, and they just flow. These are the people everybody else in the committee hates, because these are the guys that are always saying, well, let's do this, let's do that. They see all kinds of possibilities, see the good and the bad in different ideas. The downside of the transformers, they're not real big on details, so they'll kick off all kinds of ideas like crazy, faster than you can write them down, but they're done at that point, pretty much. They'll let you go do the plan. I admit I'm a transformer. The good thing is, if you've got an examiner on your team, the examiners love the details. They love to do the research. They like to gather information. They love committees. They like to get folks together, talk about things, get input. They like to get the big picture pretty well laid out and nailed down before they move on, because they like certain things. The bad side of the examiner is they will study forever. If you have a committee full of examiners, they will meet and meet and meet and meet and meet. And 2 years later, they're still meeting. Oh yeah, we have one more idea. We're going to do another study. The architect, though, is the planner. They will take the ideas, they will take the research, the data that was gathered by the first 2, and they will put together a plan. They love the details. They love to take those, put things in order, logical progression. They're really good at evaluating situations and creating the plan. They do like to concentrate on concrete solutions. They do not like ambiguity, a lot like the examiner. And if you give them a choice between a fuzzy idea and something that's more concrete, they're going to the concrete automatically. So last, of course, that activate quadrant in the problem-solving process, the mover moves to action. They are ready to go into action at the drop of a hat. These are the guys that say, oh, look, there's a hill. Let's go take it. And then they're off to take the hill. If they didn't consult with the examiner and the architect, they might be taking the wrong hill. But they move into action quickly. They are not crazy about committees. They're not crazy about things that get in the way of getting things done. Movers like to move. If you understand yourself, your profile, and that of your team members, then you understand each other and how you all play an important role in that problem-solving process, because you need all 4 people, all 4 styles on your team to get through the whole process. Because if you short shift any one of those, you're not going to get the job done the way it needs to get done. You know, if you cut short on the planning or the research, you need it all. You need ideas. So it's good. You know, 50 to 75% of, I said, people don't believe that they're creative or believe they're not creative. Don Barefoot told me this morning he thought he was not creative. I think he's crazy, because he runs a very creative organization, very creatively. But he doesn't believe he's creative, even though he makes music and art and stuff. But if you understand your perspective, then you also understand your value to the team. And the E and the A, the examiner and the architect, who typically don't think they're creative automatically, they suddenly see that, oh, wow, I am important. I serve a vital role. So this helps them understand their value in the creative process and actually gets them to start thinking, well, maybe I am creative, you know? Now, just based on what I've told you, you can probably look at your people and look at the way they attack problems and get a good idea of who fits where. But we also have an online program, a little profile that you can take for free, and it kicks off a report that looks like this. This is Don Barefoot's profile, and you see the quadrant there, top right, transformer, examiner, architect, and the top left is mover, and that's where most of Don's answers went. He tends to be a mover, likes to get things done. Is that someone who knows Don? This is the second part of the report. It gives Don more details on what his profile is and how he reacts. And then he can print this out and share it with everybody else on his team. And now they understand him more and he understands them more. If you'd like to use this of course is on your jump drive, so you don't have to write it down, but if you want to, it's CarneyCo.com/team-profile. You go in there and all you have to do is fill out a quick form that you put the name of your company and the names and email addresses of the people that you want to profile. Within a day, we'll load them into the system and you'll get back an email that says, here, take the test. And it takes 10 minutes, immediately kicks out the results. And you'll never hear from us again. The only way you'll hear from me is if you call me. So that's the team. TEAM, Transformer, Examiner, Architect, Mover. Now let's go back to IDEA. Identify the problem. Like I said, it seems counterintuitive. Of course you know what the problem is. But it is important to what you pick. Steve Jobs said with Apple, every time they decided to say yes to one idea, to one project, one concept, they had to say no to at least 2,000 great ideas, potentially, that some very smart people came up with at Apple, but they said, no, we can't do it all. So you do have to decide what you're going to work on. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to identify who is the owner of the problem. One person on your committee or in your team needs to be the owner of the problem because they need to have the responsibility to move it through the whole process. Third thing you have to identify is the facts relevant to this problem. And problem, opportunity, to me, same thing. It's the old half full, half empty thing. I prefer opportunity, actually. So you get your team together and you get a board like this, and typically, committees are 5, 6, 7 people, which is, I think, a good number. You get, one of my friends says, all committees should be in odd numbers and 3 is too many. But, 4 to 6 or so is a good number. It starts to get too few, you don't have enough input, and too many, you got too much input. But whatever your committee is, make it work. Get an easel, get a big marker, get somebody to write notes. And when you start presenting facts, you answer some basic questions. Who, what, where, when. What do we know about this situation? What do we not know about the situation? Sometimes that's just as revealing as what you do know. And this one's very important. What are we assuming? Because it's the assumptions that get in the way of looking at other opportunities. So if you say, what are we assuming? Then suddenly you start saying, well, maybe we don't have to assume that. Maybe there's other ideas. Now, I told you one of the things you're going to take away today is tips on how to make sure your team is fully engaged, that everybody on the committee participates, and everybody has a voice. Here's how you do that. You're taking the facts down. Somebody's calling out facts. Now, here's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to say, well, here's a fact number 1, and here's why I think it's important. And back in 1982, we did this, back in then we did that, and yeah, I know you think we did this. They're going to want to talk for 10 minutes. Guess what? When you're fact gathering, identifying facts, just get the facts, okay? Don't let anybody, there's no point in discussing further. Here's the thing that you do. When you are gathering facts, you encourage what-if thinking. You encourage the phrase, how might we? Very powerful phrase. I'll tell you more about in a second. You build on each other's ideas. When I present a fact and it spurs an idea with you, then you say, oh, well, that makes me think of this fact. And then you present your fact, you write it down. You want to make sure whoever writes the facts down really gets the intent of what the speaker meant when they said what they said. But just present the facts and encourage non-traditional thinking and unconventional thinking. And one of the ways you do that is you do not allow the word but, can't, tried that. You don't argue about the facts. You don't explain the facts. You don't discuss the facts. This rule applies to everybody in the room, okay? Doesn't matter if it's the boss or the janitor or anybody in between. Leave your butts at the door. You know the most powerful word in the English language? But. I love you, but I never want to see you again. It's bad. Don't allow buts when gathering facts or ideas. And we tried that back in 1982, but it didn't work. You don't allow that. If it's a fact, if I believe it's a fact, then it goes on the board. If you believe it's a fact, it goes on the board. Whether we agree with that or not, it goes on the board. You take 30, 45 minutes, you'll have 30 to 40 facts. And then your board starts to look like this. You've got them all up there. Next big thing on making sure you get total participation out of your team. You want to make sure everyone has a voice. Everyone. And the way you do that is you don't talk in the next phase. What you do, every person is going to say we got 30 facts up there. You give everybody a sheet of dots that looks like this, and everybody chooses a color. I'll be red. You're green. You're yellow. And if there's two yellows, then you put your initials on one, okay? So you know who's who. I go up. Every person that's participating goes up and takes 3 dots each and puts them on what I think are the 3 most important facts in our discussion. You put them on the 3 most important dots from your perspective. I always encourage you to let the owner of the problem go last so that they don't influence anybody else's thinking. But basically, the truth is, people are so intent on this thing at this point. Not talking, you just go up and put dots up, okay? So when you get done with that, your board starts to look like this. Fact number 1 has 2 dots. Fact number 6 has like 4 dots. So a lot of people thought that was important. Now that all the dots have been placed, everybody sits down, except for the 2 people that put the first dots up. We start at the very top, and whoever has green and who has yellow, each person stands up, and the green says, here's why I think fact number 1 is important. And this is why I chose it. And so they say it out loud. The person in yellow says, well, that's interesting you say that because I didn't realize that. Here's why I selected that. It makes a tremendous difference when I hear you say why you think it's important and you hear what I say, because I promise you, if you have 4 people looking at a fact, there's 4 different interpretations of why that fact is important. And so, since everybody's placing dots, everybody gets to talk. And since we're only placing dots on the things that we think are most important, that's the only thing we talk about. So if we go back to where I was a minute ago, when I'm presenting fact number 16, and I have to tell the whole story about why 16 is important, well, I just wasted a bunch of time because guess what? Nobody even put a dot on 16. So we just cut out all that time and all that conversation. Let everybody go down the entire list. Everybody talks. And one thing you don't allow is, yeah, I agree with whatever he said. No, I put the dot here for one reason. You put a dot here for another reason. They can expand on it. There's always another reason. After you do that, then the group decides which of the 3 most important facts on the board appear. Obviously, number 6 has 4 dots on it, so that's big. And the other 2 that have lots of dots, we box those in. And guess what? There's some other facts on these boards that are related to numbers 1, 6, and 10. Well, we take those and put them in there. If 16 is similar to number 6, let's just put it up there. You don't have to find a home for every fact, but just the ones that are relevant. Slip them into the facts that you think are the most important. And now you've got 3 facts basically aggregated into what you think are the most important things you want to talk about. Okay? Now we're still, up to this point, identifying the facts, identifying the problem. We're going to move now into defining the problem. We're going to take those 3 facts, write them somewhere, and say, let's come up with some ideas on what we can do about these facts. I'm going to demonstrate this for you in just a second. Here's the very important part of what you do during this phase. When you're working on ideas, you always start with how might we? How might we hire more people? How might we increase sales this year? How might we get into the Fort Wayne market? How might we? You don't say, why can't we, or why should we, or why did we? It's how might we? How might we turns the thing in the brain. I can't explain it, but it opens possibilities. It says we might, for one, and then it says how. And so it gets you to start thinking, well, geez, maybe there is a way that we can do this. We had a session a few months ago where the IT guy, who is not in sales at all, of course, says, how might we sell our products on Amazon? The sales manager almost busted a gut. She was about to explode, but she'd already been told, you can't say can't, you can't say no, you can't say but, you just have to let the fact be presented or the idea be presented. And he says, he said, well, how might we sell on Amazon? Well, fortunately, she turned red and steam came out of her ears, but other than that, she was fine. 2 hours later, we're having lunch and talking, taking a break, and she said, you know, I've been thinking about this Amazon thing. We might be able to sell on Amazon if we did this and this and this. And it was all because we said, how might we? And she deferred judgment till later. It's magical. Start with how might we? So, we say how might we, and we start listing ideas. Here again, no judgment, no buts or its, or that's a crazy idea, or why would you want to do that? You don't discuss it. You just let your team, let it flow. Let the ideas come. All focused on these 3 facts that we identify as the most important facts. Now, once you've got, 30, 45 minutes or whatever time you've got, and by the way, this process, we do it, in a day generally, sometimes 2 days, depending on what we're doing. But I've also done it over lunch, one-on-one. You can do it in 5 minutes while you're trying to decide where to go to lunch. It's versatile and powerful. You can make it as big as your problem is, and you make it as small as you need it to be. But once you've got your how might we's ideas up there on the board, you do the same thing. You put dots on them without talking. You go back and talk about those dots, who did what and why you chose those, and then you box in the most important ones. And the team is doing this. The team, everybody's participating. It's really a beautiful, magical thing. Then, by the way, we still haven't finished defining the problem, though we're creating a lot of neat ideas. Then you want to focus on make sure you're focusing on the right problem. So, I want to demonstrate now how everything I just showed you works. I want to do it one time real quick with the ABC company. Right here, right? I know you can't see that very well, but it says ABC company, member C12. The president of ABC company woke up one day and he said, we've got a morale problem. Everybody here is unhappy. I don't know what's going on. Production is down and people are miserable and they're quitting left and right. I don't know. We got to do something about it. So he calls the team together, gets into the conference room and says, team, how might we improve morale here at ABC? So, now that you know about the profiles, you know the transformer, he says, well, if morale's down, let's have a party. We'll have a picnic. Maybe we'll make an awards banquet for everybody who's worked extra hard to do things so great for us. The examiner says, well, shouldn't we survey the staff first? The architect says, well, when do you want to have this party? Make it a plan already. And the mover says, we'll do it this Sunday. I'll go ahead and book the band, get the food. Let's just do it. The owner says, wait a minute, I just came back from Nashville C12 conference and I learned that there's a better way to do this. So let's just gather some facts. So they go around the room and they start talking about facts. No judging, just list the facts. People are unhappy. Yeah, it's obvious, but write it down. People are overworked. That's an important fact. Last 2 hires we had, they didn't work out. They quit just like, they weren't even into their probation period. We've been working so hard, nobody's had a vacation in the last year. That's obviously, that people are unhappy about that. We hadn't had pay raises because things are so tight. We have 4 open positions right now that need to be filled. And sales are up, but production is down. Well, that's enough to make anybody go crazy. So they list the facts, and then they go up and they start putting dots. I think, let's see, people are unhappy. That's kind of a big deal. And I think people are overworked. That's kind of a big deal. People hadn't had raises. Man. Okay, I'm putting dots there. Everybody else goes up, puts up their dots. And since I have veto power, I say, you know what? I think this is important. And, I think this is important. So we've identified the 2 most important facts. Of course, there's 40 here, but you get the idea. And then we say, well, how might we, fix this problem where people are overworked and unhappy and haven't had pay raises? Well, the transformer still wants to have a party. He says, how might we have a big company picnic? Let's just do that. How might we? How might we have an awards banquet? Oh, back to that again. How might we hire 2 or 3 new people that are the right people that will stick around? There's an idea. How about we give everybody a raise? How about we hire temps to fill the production void? How might we increase production? Let's just brainstorm on how we might increase production. Facts are up on the board. Everybody takes their dots out, and they go, well, I think I want to give everybody a raise. Yeah, I think I want to increase production. Everybody talks about it. I say, well, look, I think if you give everybody a raise, they'll naturally be happier because we haven't had a raise in months and we need it. And, I think that's the big deal. And the whole team agrees with me because I have the red pencil. So we box that and we say, let's work on that idea and say, how might we give everybody in the plant a raise? This is where we go to what's on the screen now that says focus on the right problem. We've got this how might we. We use sticky notes like these. You get them at Office Depot, big 4x6 sticky notes. Yours probably won't say Carney and Company, but I'll give you these if you want them to. And we write it on here, and you'll see why in a minute because it's fun to move them around. Sometimes you have to move them around. To focus on the right problem, this is the big deal. It doesn't matter if you get what I'm about to show you in terms of how you move these things around or not. But there's 2 things that you do to make sure you're working on the right problem. Okay? If you don't get anything else out of this talk today, get these 2 things. You ask, why do we want to do this? And what's stopping us from doing this? Why do we want to give everybody a raise? And what's stopping us from giving everyone a raise? You ask those questions, and you can do this. Somebody brings you a problem, and they say, boss, what am I going to do about this? You say, well, why do you want to do it? And let them answer. And you say, well, what's stopping you from doing this? Let them answer. Pretty soon, you keep asking that question and answering it, and you'll actually get to an answer to your problem and know that you're working on the right problem. What you do, though, is you ask this question, why do we want to give people raises? And then answer it. Well, the answer is we want to give them a raise because it'll make them happy, right? So, to take this one that says, how might we give everyone a raise? Why, the answer is to why is go up. Let's see, I'm going to put this one up here. See, I'm already moving them around. Why do we want to give everyone a raise? Well, because it will make everyone happy. What's stopping us from making everyone happy? Well, one of the things that's stopping us is that we haven't given anybody a raise in a long time. Now, if you keep asking that question, what's stopping us from making everyone happy? There's a lot of other answers to that question that you start putting out here. And then you start saying, well, this seems to be more important than that. And this is more important than that. But let me just finish demonstrating this why, what's stopping us thing. Why goes up towards heaven, where everything is happy. Production is full. The people are happy, and your customers are happy, and life is good. Down is into the weeds, which is where the details are. What's stopping us from giving everyone a raise? Well, our cash flow, by the way, has been terrible because Production is down. We can't ship stuff, and we can't ship it. We can't bill it. We can't bill it. We can't collect it. How might we improve cash flow? So you answer the question, our cash flow is bad. Turn that into a how might we? How might we improve cash flow? See how that turns a negative into a positive? Just by the words, how might we? Instead of saying we can't do it because we have no cash flow, you say, well, how might we improve cash flow? Well, let's ask, what's stopping us from improving cash flow? You're going to love this one. Well, if we could increase production, well, I think we would, we could get stuff out the door, we could build it, improve cash flow. So increasing production is a prerequisite to improving cash flow, which is a prerequisite to giving everyone a raise, which may be one of the prerequisites to making them happy. See, this is starting to look like a strategy and not just a list of questions. So what's stopping us from increasing production? Anybody? People. We need to hire more people. So how might we hire more people? Now, I can take this on forever and probably find out that we've got real problems in our HR department or our hiring practices or something like that. But here's the thing, even if I stop right here, we started with how might we improve morale? That's what the boss wanted to know. How do we improve morale? If that's all you do is try to focus on how to improve morale, you're going to develop a plan that's not going to solve the problem, because the problem is you've got to have more people to relieve the pressure so that people can get raises, can get time off, can spend time with their families. So they can't even go to the party if you don't hire more people. So that is what I mean by making sure you're working on the right problem. Got it? You'll be tested again later. So now we move to the E, expand your options. What happens as you're doing this, going through this process, the brain gets kicked into high gear, and a lot of ideas come during this process, even before you get here. And a lot of people will, in fact, the movers in the group will hear ideas and go, yep, that's the problem, let's go do it, we'll have a party. But if you keep working through it and figure out what the real problem is, and then you take that, how might we hire more people, and then you start working on expanding your options. If all you do, forget these 5 tips here, if all you do is just say, how might we hire more people, how might we get more people on board, and fill in the blank with different ideas on that, you'll generate a lot of ideas. These 5 tools will just help you if you're getting stuck or just need a little extra stimulation. What if? What if is a cousin? Well, let's see, I've already done that. Whoops, okay. What if is a cousin to how might we? It opens up ideas and opportunities. You say, what if we did this? Then your brain starts to answer the question, well, then this would happen. Well, if that happened, then what would happen with this? So what if statements are really good. So we've identified we have a hiring problem. We need to hire people. What if, and this is, by the way, during the no judging brainstorming stage of the process, what if we just outsource our HR for right now until we get things straight? We've got an HR problem, we've got a hiring problem. What if we just outsource it? What if we hire temps? What if we went to 10-hour days? What if we got a consultant? Next tool, think opposites. This is where you get a little radical. You say, what if we just fire our HR department? Obviously, they're not doing the job. We'll just start all over. We'll fire them, we'll hire a consultant. We'll get recruiters in here. We'll call C12 members and say, what do you do about this kind of situation? We're in a bad bind here. Think big. Okay, what do Fortune 500 companies do about this problem? What do, let's see, what if we have 4 openings? What if we hire 6 instead of 4? What if we, as soon as we get caught up, we build inventory so the next time we have a lull like this, we'll have plenty of inventory so we at least can ship and build. Then you can also likewise think small. What if we shrank a little bit? We told some of our customers who are not profitable or really just not paying us on time, what if we fired some customers? What if we took the products that are least profitable and ready to be obsoleted anyway and just quit making them? Just to let our customers know we can't make those. Now, yes, these are radical ideas, but we're in tough times here. Remember, we've got a morale issue. And then this one is a lot of fun. You make a list of movies or books or themes. We just like to go with movies. Just without even thinking about what the problem is, you make a list of movies. Yesterday, I said, okay, Great Gatsby came to mind. Harry Potter movies came to mind. Sound of Music. Anybody else got one? The Godfather. Oh, great. So you make a list of 10 movies, and then you look at those movies in the context of your problem. We need to hire people. A hitman? Is it a Karate Kid? See, all kinds of ideas just to come to. When I saw The Great Gatsby, naturally I thought of The Great Gatsby. Naturally went back to the party theme. Also, let's see. The Great Gatsby's always wearing a tuxedo, so we can have formal Fridays. That'll improve morale. If we're going back to that morale thing. What was it? Oh, Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Everybody in the school was divided up into teams. What if we divide everybody in the whole building into teams? Gave them priorities, goals, and incentives, production-oriented, and every time a new person comes in, they go on a new team, and we'd do something like that. Karate Kid. Who's got an idea related to our hiring issue related to Karate Kid? Training. That's a great. Maybe it's a training issue. So it's funny. It's where you think totally unrelated things will stimulate your mind and connect them to that. And that's one of the definitions of creativity, is taking two unrelated things and putting them together. So those are 5 tips. And in the back of the presentation, there's a list of books that I recommend for you. There's one called A Whack on the Side of the Head that helps you realize that you are creative, and there's lots of things that get in the way of your creativity. There's a book called What a Great Idea that helps you stimulate ideas. There's just tons of them. But the truth is, you don't need to become an expert at this. You just need to get good at it, and you just need a few tools to help use this process. Last, activate. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm telling you, you need to. And you need to be formal about it. You need to be intentional about it. You can't just let it go. Let's assume that the committee's going to get it done. The owner has to take responsibility. Develop the action steps, assign tasks to the team members, and on down the line, make some serious deadlines that people have to make, a timeline, schedule the next meeting so you know when you're going to get together. And look, if new problems come up when you get back together, you run them back through the process and make sure they're the right problems and that you've got some ideas on how to deal with them. Now, we've got time now. I'm going to show you one more example, see if I can wrap this back up in a bow on how this works. And you can participate because you know a guy named Pete Johnson. Pete suddenly has a blood pressure issue. His blood pressure 6 months ago was normal, and all of a sudden he's gone to see the doctor and it's through the roof. So that's his problem. Pete's blood pressure is too high. How might he get his blood pressure back down? So he and his wife get together and they list the facts. Identify the facts, first thing. And they list the things that you would normally think of that relate to him. He's overweight, doesn't exercise, works too much, hadn't had a vacation, had a death in the family, and his blood pressure has really gone through the roof here in the last 6 months. They take dots. He has blue dots, she has white dots. He puts these 3 blue dots up and she puts these 3 white dots up. And then they talk about why they put those dots there. He says, well, the fact that I was 6 months ago fine and now I'm not is a big deal to me. I think there's something, there's no history of blood pressure problems in my family, so I don't know what's going on. I have gained a lot of weight in the last 6 months, and that seems to be an issue. And, obviously I'm working way too much and I probably have too much stress. She says, well, I agree with the first 2, but I think the fact that your dad died 6 months ago is a big deal, and I'm putting a dot on that. So they decide to do some brainstorming on those top 2 things. And they think, well, you gained 20 pounds. Let's see, how might you lose 20 pounds in the next year? How might you join a gym, which will help lose weight? You're not real good at commitments to the gym, so why don't we get a personal trainer? You're working too much. How might we delegate some work? How might you work less? Might you change to a healthy diet? They go back and dot those, and then they talk about them. Okay, sorry. And they say, they both agree that his weight gain is a problem. She still thinks he needs to hire a personal trainer. They both agree he needs to work less. But they decide to box let's lose 20 pounds this year, because that seems to be a big issue. He's always been working a lot. So they go to the board, like I showed you, and they use these sticky notes. And they say, how might Pete lose 20 pounds this year? Remember, we ask, why does he want to lose 20 pounds? What's stopping him from losing 20 pounds? First, we'll ask, what's stopping? Well, what's stopping him is Pete doesn't exercise enough. So how might Pete exercise every day? What else is stopping Pete from losing 20 pounds? He has a bad diet. He eats the wrong stuff, and that's not good. So those 2 things, that could solve the problem. If he exercises every day and changes to a healthy diet, that could solve the problem. But let's ask the question again just once, just a couple times anyway, to see what else there might be. So what else is keeping Pete from exercising every day? He is not good about keeping the schedule outside of work. So how might he get a personal trainer? That'll help him get there every day and keep him focused on his diet as well as his exercise. What else is stopping Pete from exercising every day? He works too much. So how might Pete work less? Well, that introduces a whole new problem, doesn't it? Maybe we better attack that one. What's stopping Pete from working less? Well, he's got too much to do and not enough people to do it. So, well, maybe he needs to delegate some of his work. He's got too much to do. And what's stopping him from delegating it? He needs to get somebody to delegate it to. So we've taken our problem from losing 20 pounds down to he needs to get some help. Seems like we have HR problems everywhere in these companies. Well, here's another situation. What if he fires some clients? That'll help him reduce his workload if he gets rid of those clients that are kind of a big pain. I'm in the mood to fire clients right now, I guess. So there may be the whole solution right there, right? Exercise every day, get a healthy diet, work less, get a trainer. I don't know. Maybe we should go back to this thing and say, why do we want to lose 20 pounds, Pete? Why? Well, obviously the reason is we want to reduce his blood pressure. Well, what's stopping you from reducing your blood pressure? Well, you're not taking any blood pressure medication. Any doctors in the room? You know, if we had a doctor in the session, problem would have been solved a long time ago, right? But let's say, no, maybe we don't take blood pressure medicine just yet. What else is stopping Pete from reducing his blood pressure? Well, he's working a lot, has death in the family, he doesn't exercise. Pete's under a lot of stress. How might we reduce Pete's stress? I'm going through this obviously a lot faster than you would normally, but I'm trying to get you the feel of how this thing works. So what's stopping Pete from reducing his stress levels? There's several things. One is he hadn't had a vacation in a while. What else is stopping Pete from reducing his stress? Well, his dad died. He is the executor for his estate. So he's working an extra 10 hours a week just trying to get that stuff straight, which adds to his gigantic workload. So if we look at this and say, if Pete could get rid of his executive responsibilities, that would help reduce his stress. If he could exercise every day, that would reduce his stress. If he worked less, that would reduce his stress. If he reduced his stress, would that reduce his blood pressure? And wouldn't those things also help reduce his weight? What you get when you work this thing far enough up and down is a complete plan for Pete that focuses on where he needs to be focused, which in his case is he's got too much stress. And the ways he needs to reduce that stress are numerous. You know, they're work-related and they're exercise-related and diet and this executor thing. But that is a whole different problem on reducing stress as the thing to work on, as opposed to just trying to lose weight or just trying to take pills to solve the problem. So that, and of course, that just gets us through the problem definition phase, by the way. And then we go to expanding the ideas and we figure out, okay, what can we do? We do a little brainstorming on how we reduce speech stress. In addition to everything on here, we could, because we have already generated some ideas, you could say maybe he should get a massage once a week. Maybe he should get a waterfall in his office with that trickle, that's calming, soothing stuff. Maybe he should see a therapist. Lots of ideas could come up that then you could turn into a plan for Pete to get his stress down, get his life back in order, get his weight down, and get his blood pressure where it ought to be. On the back table is a sheet that looks like this. And my daughter, Spencer Grace, has got some. She's going to pass them out if you'd like. And we've got plenty, I think we've got time for questions. This tells you about the idea team on the front, the problem-solving profiles. On the back, it shows you the step-by-step process. Identify the problem, define the problem, expand on it, activate it. Also gives you tips for team participation and team focus. And I have 10 posters up here. If there's 10 people that ask questions, then you get these posters. You can take them back. Or you don't have to if you don't want to. This is also on your stick, so you can just take it and print it out if you like. And in addition to all that great information, there's this really cool picture, so you'll remember who shared this cool information with you. This little girl, 5-year-old girl, was in her room just working like crazy with crayons, pencils, and her dad walks in and says, "Sarah, what are you doing?" She says, "I am drawing a picture of God." He said, "Sarah, that is really, really neat. But honey, nobody knows what God looks like." Sarah, without even looking up, says, "They will in a minute." That's the kind of creativity that you have and your people have. It's in us. God put us there. He made us creative. So you just got to find it, harness it. A lot of it is just that confidence that Sarah has that she knows she's right. She's got it. You've got it too. Turn your committees into idea teams and you'll turn them into a much more productive, fun, and functional teams. I really, today, hello. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. So I was there a couple years ago. I had low cash flow. I needed to hire more people. People didn't have a raise for over a year.
This is your company.
How do we go to that if you hire more people? You have longtime employees that will be resentful if you don't have cash flow and they're not getting a raise. So how can you help us explain to the team? Is that called take one for the team?
Well, that's a how might we that you've got to put in front of your management team and say, how might we do this? But obviously the answer is that you've got to grow the company and you've got to have 100% buy-in from your folks, that want to take it to where you need to take it. And so if you just have to be sure you can present that plan to them in a way that makes sense. If you get your team together, here's the thing. You already have the answer to the question. You want to go into your team meetings not knowing what the answer is. That's one of the problems that we owners make because we are all so smart. We think we know the answer before we even get started on it. And you just have to go into these things with an open mind and just say, how might we get from here to here? And work on it. And your team will build the answer. And as they do that, they'll build consensus. And they will build, it may be a different answer than what this ABC company came up with. It may be different or better than what you came up with. I don't know. But the way to do it is to get the folks together as opposed to just writing a memo and shooting it out saying we're going to do this next time. Because that's what, sometimes we do. Yes, sir.
I'm a member of a committee that thinks it's a team, led by the executive vice president. So I wonder what I could do as a team member, or as a member of this group, to move them towards this idea team, this idea group.
Well, you've got to get your leader on board with the concept, but if you can take this information back to him and say, here's the way I'd like to approach our next committee meeting. Here's the problem that we've identified we want to work on, and here's the way, I saw this and I think it's a pretty cool process. And you've got to just get him to buy into that much. And actually, you can actually demonstrate it by doing it one-on-one with him or her. As I mentioned, we often do these just with two people, and sometimes over lunch. And I've got these little tiny sticky notes for that. But you've got to get them to let you try it. And you've just got to get them and everyone else to open their minds to a new idea and a new approach. Keep asking, how might we? Keep deferring judgment. No ifs, ands, buts, and stuff. It's in your packet at the very end. I didn't mention this process I was first exposed to about 10 years ago. It was developed by a product engineer that worked for Procter & Gamble back in the 70s. He introduced it to them in 1974, and he continued to work there for 14, 15 years, later became a professor at a college, and taught it in school, and now he teaches it to consultants and to companies all over the world. He was in Egypt 2 weeks ago teaching it to a phone company, hundreds and hundreds of employees. And it's a really, he doesn't call it what we call it. Because I'm in the branding business, we rebranded it the way I wanted it to be. He calls it simplicity, and it looks different, but it's really, if you really want to get into it, if you really want to learn this process, you just saw what I'm going to teach you this process, because that's not what we do. I'm happy to share it with you now because I can, and I'd love for you to be able to use it. This guy will take you in and for 3 or 5 or 7 days teach you the nitty-gritty part of the process. Yes.
Skip, I have a background in organizational development, so I love what you've put together here, and I really like your approach to asking questions, and we certainly are going to start to use some of that, so I appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
I have a question about the team, and see if you have any suggestions for us. We have a couple people on our team who are examiners, who are fantastic. I'm so happy that we have them because they are the dot the I's and cross the T's people.
They will do it.
And so one of the challenges, though, is getting them to be a little more tenacious, I guess is the word. They assume that everyone out in the world operates the same way that they do. So when they go to ask a question or to find out more information, if someone says no, they just assume that that's the answer. Well, I asked and they said no. And so we're trying to get to a point where they'll say, well, ask more. Why? Is there a way around this? Can we do this? And I think they're such rule followers that sometimes that stops right there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you have any suggestions about instilling tenacity.
Yeah, I think it's a one-on-one work in progress. I think, part of the thing is if you can help them understand that this is their key gift that they've got, that they are good at research and they're good at gathering data, and just tell them, don't take the first no. A good salesman knows you have to hear 7 no's before you give up. They need to learn that they just keep asking the question. And sometimes you ask it different ways or ask different people. Our philosophy at our place is you go over, under, around, or through whatever obstacle you have. Yeah. And so that's just one of the kind of tips you've got to try to instill on them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Really appreciate new ideas to help brainstorm, and actually just talking about using it for root cause analysis too. No, the one question I had, I guess it's kind of implied, but would you suggest that you take everybody through the analysis of what kind of category they fit into before you start this? And once you do that, how do you use that information to help the team versus having individuals get cubbyholed?
Well, that's a great question. And yes, you want everybody to go through it. And the easiest way, the simplest way is to use that link on our website. Again, it's no cost at all. It's set up for 10 members, but if you want 20, just go in and put your company name -2 and put another 10 in there. Keep doing that until you get them all. They will get this report that explains to them who they are in terms of the way they approach problems. And then you get everybody together. After you've done this, you get them together and you share this information. We start every session that we do we've profiled everybody that's in the room, and we explain to them, this is your style, and this is why you do what you do, and this is yours. And it doesn't mean you're locked into that. It doesn't mean that you only do research if you're an examiner. What it does is that's your gift and your challenge. Your gift is you're good at that. Your challenge is to not be stuck there the whole time, because you've got to move around the quadrants to get the job done, or be a participant in moving it around the quadrants. So the first step, though, is understanding, and understanding yourself, and then understanding each other. And it's just really powerful. It's really cool when we explain this to people, because I'm telling you, the examiner and the architect are the two people that totally think they don't belong in a brainstorming session. They just don't like that whole idea. I'm not creative. I get that a lot from people. I'm just not creative. Well, once you start explaining to them how there is a process and how they fit into it, they really start to believe, I am valuable. I can be creative. I can contribute to the process. And so it changes their whole perspective. And so I'd spend some time on that. It doesn't take a lot. But like I said, there's Ambassador, and again, this is in your thing, but it is the guy that I was referring to that developed this process. If you Google him or Simplexity, you'll get more information, a little bit more that's available on his website that tells you some more details on this kind of thing. But understanding is the first key to understanding. Yes.
Just two quick questions. One, do you live in the same town as your wife?
I gladly do, yes.
Just kidding. That was my obnoxious question. I was kidding.
I appreciate it. My wife's right over here, and she's the only reason we get anything good and creative done.
Great.
And one of those things we did was our daughter there, Spencer Grace. Thank you for being here. I wasn't nervous till Spencer told me she was absolutely coming to this. And,
I like the hat, by the way. My real question, we did something similar from a Vern Hartnett book. Wasn't near the caliber of this study, I don't believe. But one of my issues, I have a small company, around 30 employees, and I struggle with, do I bring in 3? Do I bring in 15? Do I bring in 30? And when and how big the group is? Can you comment on that?
Well, if you're trying to do this process, personally, I like 5 to 7 people, and it really depends on how much time you have. And the real key, I guess, is you want only people in the room that actually have a vested interest in that problem. For us, we're all about marketing, and usually the problem is their sales are down. I only want people in the room that I want the president of the company, I want the director of sales, I may want an operations person in there, their director of marketing. 4 to 7 people is all I want in the room. You get too many, and everybody's got to talk. So you have a lot of dots up there. You're going to have a lot of talking. But if you need that, if you go back to my definition of the people who have a vested interest in solving this problem need to be in the room, then we've done it where we've had to break the group up. We did part of the session with the whole team, and then we broke them up to do some of the problem definition stuff. And then got them back together and said, here's what we came up with, and here's what we came up with. And I've been in brainstorming sessions where we had 50 people in the room, where all we did was, we had gotten to the point of, this is what you can do if you really want to build, get everybody involved, and you got 50 people, and you say, we want 100% buy-in on this. You get your management team together to work through what's the problem, so you know that you're working on the right problem. And then you take that to the whole team and say, okay, folks, here's our issue. Here's a few ideas that we had, but we need more ideas. And so you break up into teams. We spread big sheets on the walls all over the place. and then start going through fun brainstorming exercises. And you do the movie thing, you do the what ifs and the bigs and littles, and just you do wild and crazy brainstorming. And you need a facilitator, somebody who can help stimulate some ideas to walk around. You have groups for each, if you got 50 people, you'll divide them up into like groups of 5 and 6. So they're each working on everybody's working on the same problem from their perspective. So you'll have a bunch of people that are just, I don't know, James Bond, is time up or are we close? I can't see that, Robert. Time's up.